Hi everyone, this is Lloyd speaking. Sorry I'm late. I was actually caught up in another session, the mentorship breakout group. Yeah, kind of missed the timing. My apologies. Yeah, and then I rush here. After that, okay, so let me share my screens. All right. So as for last week, I'm actually going to continue on inside bar. I thought last week presentation about inside bar was rather interesting. Personally, I do trade inside bar, which is for the longest period of time is actually quite tricky for me to trade. Yeah, until then again, indicator help to solve things up quite a fair bit. Yeah. So today, what I wish to present to you is also inside bar, but it's a slightly different indicator. Yeah. So last week inside bar, let me see where is it. Yeah. So this is it. Yeah. So I'm looking to trade the breakout of the bar direction, which is really just market entry, looking from the weekly time frame and then drilling down the H4. So this week, I'm going to talk about inside bar, but specifically on the H4 time frame itself. I find that it can be traded. Just one thing to take note, the win rate doesn't seem to be as good as from the weekly to H4. But the number of trades that you have specifically on H4 itself does actually make up for it. Yeah, which is the good thing about it. Yeah. So you can see naturally if you trade from the weekly time frame and drill down to H4, you will have lesser trades, way lesser trades. But if you trade the inside bar itself on the H4, you have more trades. But consequently, the win rate will suffer. So is there a balance between these two? I think that's for you to decide. Yeah. The thing with trading lower time frame is that if you're going to trade it sort of blindly, or rather if you're going to follow a system, naturally what you should do is, at least for a systematic approach, you should be capturing most of the entries. Yeah. Because if you miss out, let's say 5 entries, 6 entries out of 10, that means you are potentially missing out half. You will actually affect the whole win rate, because the ones that you actually miss out yourself might be the winning entries. The ones that you actually take might be potentially all the losing trades. Yeah, trading works in a very funny way. So, and this is here it goes. And for today, I just realized one thing is that I accidentally deleted my Google Sheets. Yeah. So I will try to replace it and put up the results in there for you. So what happens is that I have this particular indicator, IB, inside bar. This I find useful. There's a toggle on top of it. So once you toggle on or off, let me change the background color so you can actually look at it more clearly. Yeah, change to this color. Yeah. So it works on H4 and H1. So it measures the H4 inside bar. You can actually drill down H1 and take it. Now, personally for me, I just trade on H4 breakout itself. In the past, you can actually go to, in the past when I have more time, I actually do go to H1 and take. I'll share with you how you take it. Now, for this particular indicator, you can, I highly suggest you to actually slap in a trend filter indicator. Yeah. What sort of trend filter indicator you want to use? You can use super trend by default settings. You can use EMA. The one that I tested was actually 50 EMA. Yeah. There's no particular special reason why I use 50. It just seems to me a 50 EMA is a normal, it's quite a popular trend filter indicator. Yeah. So you can use either of these two. If you want to use any of your own, go ahead, use it. As always, I'll highly suggest you to actually backtest it to see how it turns out. Yeah. So I'll just set up my chart. Let's go and drag up super trends. There it is. So this is super trend. I'm just using it as a trend filter. 10 and 3 is the more default setting. There are slightly other default settings. Feel free to explore. I don't have any hard and fast rule for this. So trade the direction of trend, that'll be the simplest manner. Now, the way I go about testing this is simply when the price breakout in the direction of the super trend or any other trend filter that you used, wait for this time round, unlike last week, unlike 2 weeks before, you don't immediately enter. Yeah, just wait for some kind of retest. Yeah, it can be a single bar test. I don't restrict any kind of price actions. Yeah, so in the latest context, it can be a what you call it, a single bar for Wave Rider with a single bar reversal. Yeah, so it can be a doji bar, it can be an engulfing bar. Most of the time, it will actually become a doji bar or a test bar. Yeah, so same thing. I'm just using the same matrix, using this as example. We can see that price broke out. The following bar is a retest. Enter straight away, market entry, and stop loss is at the midpoint of the inside bar. So you can see it actually displays the midpoint, which is the gray colored dot in the middle. Very nice. And then just as always, aim for 2:1 or 1:1 if you like a high win rate. Yeah. So this is how I go about using this to trade. Yeah. So like I mentioned, the win rate is actually slightly worse off than going from weekly to H4. On H4 itself, the win rate will suffer, but the number of trades that you have will actually vastly make up for it. So as per my recollections, the win rate is slightly about 50, let me see, no, about 58%. Yeah, I'm using my memory for this. I promise I'll try to get the sheets up. Yeah, just need to somehow retrieve it. Fat fingers, I actually deleted it. So overall, let's say using this example, you can see that price broke. That isn't actually, no. So you can see this is the main bar, and then subsequent inside. This is the only inside bar that follows. Right? It doesn't actually measure the others. Yeah. If the others are also following inside bar within this indicator will just actually extend out as long as price did not close out. Yeah. So the following bar, you can see that actually price closed out. So this will actually constitute an entry for us. You'll get stop out. The stop loss is at the midpoint against. For here, same thing. You can see that price broke above. It will still constitute a retest, entry, and then the stop loss in the middle. Yeah. Subsequent bar will actually stop us out on the H4 chart itself. So this is one way you can actually trade it. I would say this is a lazy man's method. Overall, with a trend filter over a large number of trades, this particular method still works. Yeah. But if you can afford a bit more time, I would suggest you to go up to H1, wait for an actual retest. So you can see same inside bar. One super trend, trade in line with H4 directions. So you can see at H4, if super trend is green, then we are going to go long. So going down to H1, originally the super trend is red until much later when super trend turns to green. So same thing, you see a breakout, a retest happens when super trend is green. We can do a market entry. My stop loss will still be at the midpoint. Yeah. Now for H1, the testing was done 3:1. So you can see from my train of thought, the lower the time frame that I go, I will actually extend out my risk to reward ratio. Yeah. So the higher the time frame, I deem it as a much more stable time frame. We can aim for lower risk to reward as long as generally you trade in trend, you still get good win rates. The lower the time frame, as it gets more volatile, we need the assistance of higher time frame as a trend filter. And on top of that, just due to the random nature of lower time frame, usually I'll extend up my risk to reward. So from 2:1 at H4, 3, then H1 usually I'll aim for 3:1. This is just to balance out. Yeah, because no matter what I do, H1 seems to be much more volatile. And then of course 30 minutes, 15 minutes, the lower the time frame go, my humble suggestion is to aim for higher risk to reward, because when those lower time frame, when the trade flies, it tends to hit your targets better. Yeah. What happens is that most of the time the trade does not fly, no matter what, we just get stopped out. Yeah. So basically what I'm suggesting is that the lower time frame where it flies, it makes more sense to go for a better risk to reward. So I'll just do a quick summary. Compare this method to the one that I floated to you 2 weeks back. This one is better for the lower time frame. Two ways to go about it. Look at the H4, simply trade with trend if there's a breakout, and then followed by a single bar test. So the inside bar, these two lines forms your natural level for it to become tested. If there's no test, then I would say don't trade it. Yeah. Aim for 2:1. Other than that, if you have a bit more time, during the H4, if you spot an inside bar and the indicator tells you so, you can actually drill down to H1. So on the H1 side, make sure that your trend filter is in line or aligned with H4. Wait for an actual test. Jump into the trade. This time around, aim for 3:1 instead of 2:1. The stop loss placement, there's no guessing about it. You can see the gray line in the middle of my indicator. That will be where the stop loss is. It's always the halfway point. Yeah. I have not tested when I pull my stop loss to the all the way. Let's say if this is an entry, I have not tested if I pull my stop loss all the way to the below. Personally, I think it's a bit far. Yeah. But you all are welcome to do that and see whether it actually serves your trading, give you a better results. Yeah. I'm using the midpoint as it is. All right. Any questions? Oops. What did I just do? That's odd. How do I get rid of that? Okay, done. Again, I'm just interested to ask, how many of you actually trade inside bar? What's your criteria? Because apparently I spoke to Paul. No, Paul actually messaged me last week after my session, 2 weeks ago. Sorry. It seems that the very first indicator that I showed, which was this, is more or less an inside range. Yeah, I'm quite lost on the definition of all this. Yeah, because I rely on indicators a lot. Sometimes I just miss out the entire definition of it. I didn't do the H4 testing on this because I actually chanced upon this indicator first. Yeah, so I tested on this. I found this indicator on the Forex Station forum. Another person actually tested on this on H1 for all the 29 pairs. He tested H1. What I can share is that he tested H1 and he went for 2:1 risk to reward ratio. So each of it he tested for over a year. He traded breakout of it. Yeah. So if there's a bar, he traded the breakout of the bar, and then the stop loss is at the low. Yeah. He claims this particular testing wasn't done by me. He claims it is still profitable. Yeah. So over a 1 year worth of trades for each of the pair, 29 pairs, 2:1 trading the actual breakout with a trend filter, it still works. Yeah. So I didn't go on that route. I just wanted to try something different. So I think from both traders' point of view, mine and his, is that inside bar on the lower time frame, it can be done. Just need a sensible trend filter, and then you're good to go. Right? Any thoughts? Any thoughts about this? Let me put my let me plunge the indicator into the share folder. Yeah, if any questions, feel free to pop it in. I'll be happy to answer them. In the meantime, let me hunt for the indicator. Shashi Taran, you raise your hand. Go ahead. If you have any question, you can just go ahead and pop it. I think in the past, one of you actually asked, the question goes along the line, I'm sort of an experienced trader, but why do I still use indicator is because when I'm stressed, unicorns tends to jump out at me. Yeah, what I mean is that my trading mentality wasn't strong. Yeah, so that's why I decided to go on the route of indicators. Indicators isn't affected by my emotions at all. Yeah. So for those of you who want to download the indicator, please go in, download. I believe Mike has already shared the link. I have too many indicators in here. So you should be finding this. Yeah, so this indicator was actually modified by this particular trader in the forum. His name was Zard, S-X-A-R-D. Yeah, so find this indicator. So put it in your data field, data folder, and the indicator should pop out. Right. So as it is, due to my fat finger, I deleted the backtesting results. I'll try my best to get it back in again. Promise that. All right. I'm surprised there's no question at all. Did I actually confuse you all? So I also have not tested this particular way of trading using the daily time frame. Yeah, because since I have one that worked for the weekly, I sort of just keep it daily. Being a full-time trader, I actually have more time. Then I would deal with the lower time frame much more often compared to daily. Yeah. So maybe when I have more free time, I might just test the daily time frame and see how it actually turns out. Might be fun. Anyway, what I forgot was for the indicator, there's actually nothing much to set. Yeah. So these are the time frame you can actually play around with. Usually I don't trade. The lowest that I go for me is 30 minutes. I don't usually go lesser than 30 minutes. Yeah, just find a hassle. Yeah, I need to check the screen more often. Colors, all this, you all can actually for the colors, all this you all can actually set on your phones. This is the only thing that you need to set. Most of the time I just put it as current. Sorry, most of the time I set it as 4 hours, which should be the default setting. Yeah, because I'm basing the inside bars on the 4-hour time frame. Yeah. But if you want to test the lower time frame inside bar, by all means go ahead. By the way, if you want to test the lower time frame inside bar, I highly suggest for you to actually include the spreads. Yeah, the lower time frame is actually quite sensitive to spreads. Other than this, the buttons for this, which is the IP, you can actually change the location of it. Upper left corner, right hand. I usually just leave it as it is. I don't really change it too much. Yeah. So for this particular indicator, the good thing is that there's not much settings that you need to play around with. Yeah, unlike the others, that I might personally have some preferred settings. For this, there isn't. Yeah, really, it's just a time frame that you got to play around, which is quite clear cut. I can go in for gold. So this gold H4. All right, so I just demonstrate how I actually go about testing it. Let's say go to H1s. Yeah. So once the inside bar is detected, right? So this line will actually appear when this bar pops out, okay? Because it is an inside bar compared to the previous bar. So if you're going to trade for the H1, just going down to H1, you have to do a lot of scrolling back, right? So you can see price break and then wait for a retest. Yeah. So as always, now I just want to keep my testing simpler. I don't go for any sort of particular price action for now. Yeah. So a single bar reversal of a retest of the line is good enough for me. Market entry, I don't use pending order. Stop loss, which is at the midline. Yeah. So for H1, I recommend you to go for 3:1. That's all to it. Yeah. So trade in line with H4 directions. You can see when price goes up, especially for commodities, it does shoot quite a fair bit. Again, there's another entry for this. You can see that this is actually quite a small inside bar. Then go down all the way to H1. For that particular inside bar, price broke. This bar will be the retest. So this would be an entry. Oops. So this will be an entry. Stop loss is at the midline. Yeah. Sorry guys, just give me a minute. Okay, I'm going to resume back the screens. So this is at the midline. So this will definitely be a stop loss. And then the experiment continues from here. So another inside bar straight will appear. This time round, I won't go into H1 straight away because you can see there's no breakout in the first place. Now this is the interesting part. Right, so there's another inside bar, which is inside the original inside bar. Go to H1. So bear in mind, we are still trading in the direction of the H4 trends, right? So we are only going to buy. So let's have a look at H1 and see what happens. There you can see the H1, there's no price that actually broke above, right? So no buy orders will be placed. Price actually broke below, but since this is not in direction with the H4 trend, it will be ignored. Okay, I hope that part is clear. Let's figure this one. Also an inside bar, no price broke above, we can ignore. This will be the messy one. Let's see what happens. We just go and line the inside bar. Let's go to H1. You can see that price broke. I'm just waiting for a retest. Yeah. Unfortunately, there's no retest. Right. So just to make it clear, I'm waiting for a single bar reversal. It need not be any sort of price actions. So what I meant by single bar reversal is that price essentially has to break up, test this beige color line. Once price has tested, it should open and close above the line. Then we are good for a long position. Yeah. So in this case, you can see that there's nothing that open and close above this beige color line. There won't be any long order triggers. Cool. So actually, we can just scroll on, move on. So there are trades like this whereby price broke and there's no retest and it does fly out. We are just going to live with it. There's nothing much we can do about this. All right, so I hope that's clear up to now. Ken. Actually, you can either look for H4 super trends. Even for in actual testing is actually Gary. In actual testing, it's not really an issue to use NTF super trend. Yeah, what happens is that for NTF indicator, it actually recalculates. So that's one of the reasons why I don't like using NTF, especially to showcase to new traders. Yeah, so because the nature of NTF, it has to recalculate. Yeah, so some deem it as repainting, which is not true. Yeah, NTF in its essence, it has to recalculate. Yeah, and then some traders doesn't understand the nature of it. They get this wrong idea that MTF repaints, yeah, scars them. But for you, if you understand the nature of MTF, go ahead, use it. Yeah. But for actual trading, because if you are dimming the direction of H4, H1 don't really need the super trends. Yeah, because we already understand that H4 already determines whether to trade up or down. Yeah, simple as it is. All right. Now, one thing for you who wants to trade from past experience, this one really from past experience, is that H1, so for commodities pair, right, you have to be aware that of news. Yeah. Especially during news time, it tends to form a lot of multiple inside bar and having false breakouts. Yeah. But once the news is over, it's actually quite a pretty good heyday to trade. All right. So I don't know how you're going to implement that into your trading strategy, but this is what I observe. All right. So a lot of this does happen. All right. Low volatility periods, especially when it's waiting for news. Yeah. And then if you go down to H1 to trade, you might get chopped up quite easily. I have no idea how you're going to avoid that, but for me personally as a trader, I just trade methodically. Yeah. If a particular system I tested, it works, I don't really care whether there's news or not. I just jump in. All right. 2 cents. I know it's a bit too-faced, but something for you to consider. All right. Thank you for joining me today. And I'll see you 2 weeks down the road. Goodbye.